Hi, I'm Julie Hornock with United in Autism, and I am a parent of a child with autism. I also wrote the book, United in Autism, and Temple Grandin wrote the foreword. And the book is 30 stories of families living with autism, and I believe storytelling is so important. And so each week I'm going to interview either an expert or a parent of a child with autism and hear their advice, have them share their stories, and hear how they're okay even in the midst of autism. So I cannot wait to share with you who I have today. Take a look. Hey, it's Julie Hornock with United in Autism. I am so excited about our guest today. You're not going to believe who we have. I think you can see him, but let me tell you about him. We have Curt and Anna Warner, and Curt is an honors graduate in communication, a two-time All-American at Penn State, a 2009 College Football Hall of Fame inductee, and a former All-Pro running back for the Seattle Seahawks and also the Los Angeles Rams. A three-time Pro Bowler, Warner was inducted into the Seattle Seahawks Ring of Honor in 1994. So that's Curt. Let me tell you about Anna. She's amazing too. Anna has dedicated her life to the care of her family in the study and treatment of autism spectrum disorder. Both her and her husband have served as keynote speakers at the National Autism Conference at Penn State and the Texas Autism Conference in San Antonio. The Warner Boys is their very first book. So we are going to talk about their boys today. Welcome, Anna and Curt.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
I am just thrilled to talk with you. I am thrilled you've decided to share your journey with your boys and with autism. So just tell me a little bit about your boys.
We have 4 kids. So we have Jonathan, whose birthday is today. He's 26. Yep.
Oh, happy birthday.
Thank you. And Austin and Christian, they are twins at 24. And Isabella, who's almost 13.
Yep.
Austin and Christian were diagnosed when they were about 5, very late, when they were about 5 years old. Back in the days, autism was kind of unknown.
Under the radar.
Yeah, for us. They're wonderful kids. They are loving, funny,
Always active.
always, yeah. And but they require 24-hour assistance, and that's what we do.
They require a lot of time.
Yes.
And a lot of energy.
Yeah.
And a lot of effort. So, yeah.
Yes, well, as most children with autism do. And I know as a parent of a child with autism myself that we don't mean to, but we end up kind of isolating ourselves. People reach out, but it's like sometimes they don't reach out in the right way, and sometimes our life is just too hard. So we kind of pull back. And I guess I wondered, from your life was very visible, very much out in the public eye. And what was it like to be in that realm, but then pull back and isolate a little bit? So tell me kind of about your experience with the isolation there.
Well, I don't think it was intentional with regards to the isolation part of it, as you may be aware of. It's just one of those things where your children are behaving a certain way. And it's hard to explain because you really don't know fully or understand fully as to what's going on inside of them, because communications can be lacking at times. So you're trying to fix, you're trying to manage, you're sort of just holding on, and you really don't want to talk about it because you are having a difficult time trying to figure it out for yourself. So you, not intentionally, but you just kind of pull back and fall back because you're trying to figure out what's next, what the strategy is, and how do we move forward.
And also, it was hard going out with them when they were little. A lot of screaming, a lot of people kind of just looking at you thinking, what are you doing to your child?
Bad parenting.
Bad parenting. And so going out was difficult. And for people to come over, and it was chaotic. And so little by little, you start isolating your family, and people start kind of, not coming to visit or just coming, you just call and check on you. But it becomes a mutual thing.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, I mean, I think almost every parent I talk to, it's that exact same thing. It's just, we don't mean to, but I remember waking up 5 years later realizing, oh, where are my friends? I haven't talked to anyone in 5 years. And it's just a really hard place to be. So how did you get out of that? How did you come out of that isolation and resurface? Or have you?
We're still in it. We're not in it as much and as often. And the book sort of opened up a lot of doors and avenues for us to kind of catch up on things, or at least someone who may not be aware of our situation now can at least say, okay, I get it. And those who are in the autism arena, they can say, oh yeah, I was there. I get it.
Well,
we've been down that road as well.
And it's different now. I mean, everybody knows somebody with autism. Or so you're able to go out and people are not looking at you like you're a bad parent. You're just like, oh yeah, okay, it's, a child with a disability, even though they're a grown man, but their mentality or their cognitive, they are more in the 5-6 years old. So you still have behavior issues, but able to control it a little bit better. And
there's more awareness.
So
people
makes
more
a big
understanding.
difference.
Not all the time, but you have more people.
You have some people that are just sure.
Well, I think one of the hardest things is that we have all that crazy stuff, like you talked about, that crazy stuff going on in your house, and you often feel like I'm the only one going through this. So kind of share with us, maybe, I know you mentioned in the book you had a massively dangerous situation with a fire, and I was in tears reading it. It was really just beautifully written and heartbreaking, and oh man, I cannot imagine. So share with us what happened in your home that day with the fire.
That was 2008. Curt went to work that morning. I had asked him to stay home, but he couldn't. He had meetings. And I was doing our daughter's hair downstairs in the family room. Christian was sitting next to me. We were watching Sesame Street. Jonathan was sick. He had a cold, and he was in our room watching TV. And Austin was very quiet.
Which can be a challenge at times. We'll check on anything that's going on. So.
And we had matches, everything hidden, knives, all that stuff is all hidden. And he figured out where we hid the matches in the garage. And somehow he got it and went to his room. And in his head, he was in the belly of the whale, Pinocchio, Monster the whale, and he was inside the whale, and you have to start a fire to get out, and that's what he did. He did it in a trash can, and pretty soon that trash can, the fire caught the curtains, and when the smoke detector went off, and I ran upstairs, and so did Jonathan. I caught Austin coming up the stairs with a little glass of water to try to put the fire.
Oh, that's just, oh, that's heartbreaking.
And we knew, I mean, I told Jonathan, just get the kids, put everybody in the car, and I tried to put the fire out, call Curt, call 911, and pretty soon the whole room was out of control, and hallway, and Austin somehow got out of the house and was missing for a minute. And Jonathan came back and said, "Mom, I don't have Austin." So I went upstairs to try to find him, and almost didn't make it out. But Austin came back. He was outside. Came back, got everybody out in the car, and when we're backing out of the garage, was glass exploding, and it was nightmare.
I can't even imagine. I'm so thankful that you all made it through, and I feel like that story in itself, we all need to know that our kids do put us in danger sometimes, and we're not alone in that.
Oh yeah. You know? Oh yeah, they can't separate reality from fiction, from make-believe. So that hopefully he learned that lesson.
And I think the lessons that we learned from it is, you know, it's unconditional love,
Yeah.
our faith, and we talk about our faith and what gets us through troubling and trying times.
Yeah.
And this is one of those. When you
Yeah.
your children unconditionally, then you have to accept some of the things that may not be as appropriate, and especially starting a house or putting us in a situation where the house was on fire and a loss of life. So the lesson is that, hey, let's not do that again, but we love you and you're still part of the family, and we're not going to give up on you as a result of that.
It was almost like a reset button. I think the fire really put into perspective, at least for me, what is really important, and the rest of what we lost, it was just stuff. Some things are not replaceable, like Curt's trophies and all that stuff that we lost, but that's still, stuff. The important thing, my kids were alive, I was alive, we got out. So let's start over, and that's what we did.
Yeah.
And there we
Wow. Yeah. And I think it's so beautiful how you talk about your faith, because I too feel like I've just really had to rely on God to get me through the struggles and the hard parts of autism. I mean, I needed something bigger than myself because I'm just not capable. And, this may have been the first time I realized that this is so much bigger and I can't do it alone. I have to have help. So since Curt's gone, I'll ask you this. The divorce rate's around 80% of children with special needs. And so it's incredible that y'all have weathered, the storms and stayed together. And that's so impressive. Anna, tell me what do you do for Curt to, I guess, keep your marriage intact? Like, what are some things you have to think about and actually do?
Well, that's a good question.
Or maybe he'll have some suggestions.
Yeah, I'm sure he'll have some suggestions.
I have no suggestions. She is the most valuable player. She does a wonderful job. She's a great mother and wife. I love her
to make him feel appreciated. And I still don't think I do enough because the majority of the time I'm consumed by the autism and the kids and making sure everybody's fed and, the regular stuff. But making sure that he's appreciated, and we don't fight, we don't argue, we might disagree, but we talk about it. We don't, I respect him and he respects me. I think that's huge. Because when you lose respect, I don't think you can.
But I can't remember the last time. I know I put it on my calendar the last time I won an argument, or at least a debate.
Yeah, it was a debate. And I said, you're right. And he's like, oh my gosh, I got to put this on the calendar.
It's in my calendar and it will pop up. I'm just not sure when it's going to pop up. Probably 6 or 8 months from now or something. I'll remind her.
Making sure that we pray together every day. So I think that is huge, and we start the day like that. Before he goes to work, we sit down, we get the verse of the day, and we pray together. And I think that's a wonderful way to start the day. And if I need him, I just need to text him or call him, and he's right there. The same, he's always present, always makes us a priority.
Yeah.
So I think that's a good way to
keep a marriage moving forward.
Yeah.
Well, that is fantastic. And Curt, I was going to ask you what you do for her, but I think you kind of answered it with you're always there. And I noticed that in the book, she's your first priority, family is your first priority, and you, no matter what you're doing, you seem to respond. And that's a beautiful, incredible thing for her to feel. I know a lot of moms feel isolated even in their own family because they just need the support. They need to feel like we're in this together. And so
you don't always have to have the key word or the key phrase to encourage. Sometimes just being there is all you really need to do, because the complexities of autism and pandas and all of the things that she's going through, Lyme disease, you don't necessarily need to understand it, and you may not. Just be there.
Yeah.
And if if you're having an issue and you don't understand something, or you're not communicating, or she's not communicating, just stay in it. You're not going to have all the answers from a father's perspective.
Yeah.
You just
That's
You can't fix it because we want to fix it.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just have to be patient and work on it a little bit at a time, and not get caught up in always fixing it and having the answer and you solve the problem, because you're not going to.
Yeah.
Communication, I think, is key.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that beautiful advice. And so, how many years have you been married?
Almost 29.
29.
Yeah.
And I told her when we're out speaking, I love her more today than I did when we first.
Yeah. Well, one of the hardest times you mentioned in the book was going through puberty. And so this is a big fear for a lot of the moms and dads, that their children are getting up there, they're 9, 10, hitting, where they're starting to worry about that. So give me just a little bit of advice for those parents that their kids are about to go through puberty.
Yeah.
Hang in there.
Yeah.
For us, I think when you lack the ability to communicate, to talk, behavior becomes your communication. So when the kid is hitting and screaming, he's trying to communicate something. You might not know what, but just hang in there, be loving and careful, and try to just love on that kid. It's hard. Puberty is hard in neurotypical kids anyways, but when you add autism to that equation, it just becomes it can become a nightmare, like it did for us. And I hope nobody will ever have to go through what we went through with the fire, and the destruction of the walls and doors and everything. But hang in there. Make sure that if you have your husband or with you, just stick together, and you can go get over that hump eventually.
So light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
But you're going to be frustrated, and you're going to and you're going to react to it, and there's nothing wrong with reacting to it. You just have to let it go, move on,
breathe,
fix it, breathe, and then come back.
And a lot of prayer.
And just go that route. So and we still have challenges today.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Oh, maybe give yourself a little grace whenever your reaction is not what you wish it had been. So
yeah.
This, we're human. You're gonna get upset. But Lord willing, you will be able to contain it, and that's where the unconditional love comes in. I still love you. I may not be happy with you, but I love you, and here may be the consequences of what you've done. So they understand consequences, and you have to enforce those consequences, and then move on. And then from there, you hope that you don't have as many, but they're still going to flare up from time to time.
Yeah. Okay. Well, what about for the parent with the newly diagnosed child, the child that it's within a year? Because I think the two hardest times seem to be puberty and early diagnosis, when you're just trying to figure it out. So what's your advice to those parents?
You're not going to fix it immediately. It's going to take a process. It's going to take time. In our case, we were behind the 8 ball a little bit, a little late, but we still were able to get help and push them forward and move forward. So for the father, I would say, look, you're not going to solve the problem. You're not going to have all the answers. Don't worry about having all the answers. Don't worry about solving all the problems. Just kind of go through the process, get the therapist out there, get as much help as you possibly can. Let the experts, the experts outside of that help with the behavior issues, and try to get on board and work with it.
And be there for each other, and support each other. And I definitely recommend the diet. You go gluten-free, dairy-free, preservatives-free, food coloring free, just do it's very doable today. When we got diagnosed, when the boys got diagnosed, it was a nightmare. There was nothing. I had to make everything from scratch, and everything tasted awful.
Yeah, it did.
So we went off the diet and then went back on the diet. I think after the fire, I really got on board, and the whole family got on board. But you need to get, it's a team effort. It's a team effort. You need to be there for each other, and your kid is gonna do, I think, better if you guys are together and agree on what to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great advice. I think the one thing I know for me, I wanted to do it all myself, and I was doing it my way. And I think it's really easy for the mom specifically to kind of just take charge and do that. I mean, you see some of the dads, but mostly, and then the dads kind of sift in the background. And I think knowing in advance, okay, you guys got to get it together and do this together as a team that's beautiful, beautiful advice.
Another thing is, at least for me at the beginning, I would be mad at him for not reacting the same way I was reacting. We got counseling, and it was just like, oh, he doesn't feel the same way he doesn't react the same way that I do. He's feeling frustrated, he's sad, but he doesn't react the same way I do. We're completely different individuals. So why am I expecting him to be acting the same way that I do? So he was taking all in and not saying much, and I was all over the place.
Yeah.
I will agree with that.
Yeah. For the women, for the moms, try to understand that your husband is hurting too. He's not expressing the same way you do, but give him some grace. Give him some grace. He's hurting too. So it's just the way he's processing it is a little different than the way we do it.
Yeah. That's beautiful advice, and really, I think, helpful. And I know I wish I would have done a better job with that. Thankfully, my husband stuck with me while I was going through that crazy time where I just couldn't.
Oh yeah, the whole process, and
I'm gonna heal the boys, and I'm gonna fix it, and everything's gonna be okay. Get out of my way, and I'm doing it. And yeah.
Every now and then, I'd have to chirp in and say, hey, maybe let's slow down on this particular path that we're going.
Yeah. You sound a lot like my husband. That's kind of what went on in our house too. So, well, I've loved hearing from you. I can't wait for all the viewers to hear your story a little bit. And I just want to thank you for sharing your story. And I'll hold up your book here, The Warner Boys, and I'm going to put the links and everything below, but tell them where they can find the book and where they can find out more about you.
Amazon. Amazon little a is our publisher. So Amazon is our publisher. So you can just order online, or you can find Amazon store near you. But usually Amazon, it's .com is the way to go.
Yeah, and put in the Warner Boys, search for the Warner Boys, and it should pop up, and then you can kind of go from there.
All right. Well, that's perfect. I'll try and look up the link, and I'll put it down there below. And I just want to thank you again for just taking the time to talk with us, and we just enjoyed it. So have a great afternoon.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right,
we
Julie.
appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed what you heard today. I hope you got some great tips, and I hope you feel maybe a little bit less alone. If you'd like to see more interviews like this, you can check me out on all the socials, and the handle is @United in Autism. Also, check out YouTube for videos, and I hope we see you again next week. Thanks so much.